It's Donny Walker. Who else would be on the video, eh? Maybe Bucking like the other day, or other people. Love these new still Bluetooth earmuffs. Just listen to some good tunes. It's nice. And if the phone rings, it rings on here, then I know if the phone rings or get a text or a message or whatever, eh? Pretty cool. Love them. Get a pair. So I've been talking about 2100s a bit lately. I want to show you one. A friend of mine, Dave Cheshire, just brought over to me. It was his dad's. His dad used to work on some 2100s. This one he just brought to me for parts. The piston's quite scored. It's an old case. Looks in not bad shape though. No cracks or anything like that. But it's old. These things are old. Unfortunately, there's chrome missing off the cylinder, just up above the exhaust port here. There's a big patch and around the intake. The intake I could fix, but because that's above the exhaust port, halfway between the exhaust port and the combustion chamber, yeah, it's no good, unfortunately. But that's okay. It's a nice keepsake. I'll use it as a pen holder or something. But thanks very much, Dave. That was very nice. Dave's actually going to come over and help me tomorrow work on some saws. I did a 036 for his dad. Turned out really well. He's got an 066, and we'll probably soup that up too, eh? Hey, Dave? After I show you how to work on these things and what I do to them all. He kind of knows already. But yeah, it'll be nice to work with him tomorrow. I need an extra hand. Had a bad morning this morning. We had a flood at our other house. Our bread making machine vibrated off the top of the washing machine, which wasn't a good idea to put it up there because washing machines vibrate on the spin cycle. Fell down, broke the drain hose off, and flooded our kitchen. So that was yesterday in the afternoon. They sopped it up. Shelly and the landlord worked like crazy, got her all happening, cleaned up, and I went down there this morning to try to make a new hose for that drain. Couldn't find one at the local area, but I'm going to join the two hoses together where it's split with a connector and some clamps and some glue, and it'll be okay. Yeah. Anyways, always something happens in life. I meant to be here all day building saws for people, but yeah, I really didn't. I didn't really get much done today on saws, but whatever. Things happen in life, and that's the way life is. So it's all good. But there is some good parts on this 2100. Stuff that you can't get anymore, like this insulator block, which I already have one for my friend Ben Christie. But this one I will keep in a safe where if I need it for a build I'm doing, that I have another one again. Like I say, they're not available anymore. I believe online I've heard that there is aftermarket pistons and cylinders for 2100s, but I haven't really looked into it yet. They're just a great old saw. I want to tell you a little bit of more history of the 2100. As I told you before, that the 1100 turned into the 2100. And then I told you about how Peter Holmquist, that used to own the Husqvarna distributorship here in BC, made sure that the factory made it the two-piece top, right? Then obviously they called it a 2100. So we had crankcases cracking years ago, mainly kind of behind where the studs are pressed in here. Oh yeah, I can see this one's got a little crack there. Yep. And around the studs, between the studs and the oiler. So Mr. Holmquist and my dad, they talked to the Swedish guys and they said, hey man, we need something better. So this magnesium half here, all crankcases are magnesium, pretty much on all saws, eh? I don't know about the Chinese ones. Not sure. Grind a little bit of metal off it and put a lighter to it. If it flares up, you know it's magnesium. You know what magnesium was used for years ago, eh? They actually, you remember the old cameras years ago with the flash? They used magnesium. So bright and so quick. That was your flash for your cameras years ago, man. Believe it or not. Anyways, back to the crankcases. They cracked. So Husqvarna sent over a whole bunch of 2100 crankcases, just the one side. And they were black colored. So if anyone out there has a 2100 that has a black side case, half the crankcase, it's aluminium. I can't say aluminum, so I have to say aluminium. So if they're black on this side, you know it's aluminium, not magnesium. Solved that problem. But then the saw basically was done its era, and the new ones came around. The new 2100 turned into basically a 394, which turned into a 395, and yada, yada, yada. So anyways, still some good parts in here. Thanks very much, Dave. I got a bag here. I'm putting 2100 parts in, and I got some boxes around the back end here on my shelves that I keep only just for 2100s. It's a good thing to like put your parts in bags and mark them, eh? This is 2100 stuff. That way you can keep it organized, eh? I've always been a bad organizer through the years, but I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to keep this very organized here, so when I strip bolts off a certain saw or anything, I'll put them in bags and mark them, so I know those bolts and stuff are for 2100s. There's the carburetor. And let me show you something on this carburetor, actually, that came off this saw. Right here, that kind of bronzy thing in the side of the carburetor here, that's where the governor was. And that one, I could see someone's worked with a screwdriver pretty hard. So someone might have taken that out and put a little piece of, I used to put little tiny Welsh plugs in it, the high-speed Welsh plugs in there, and then screw that back in, and that would block off the governor, and then the thing would rev more and have more rev, but not any more really horsepower, just more over rev for limbing and stuff, right? Just revved a little more. But you had to be careful on your needle adjust to adjust the carburetor right so you didn't over rev the saw and blow it up. So that's where guys needed to know how to tune their carburetors, and if they didn't, I would set them for them, and then it'd be okay. Another thing I noticed on this saw when I took it apart, which is typical of a lot of builders, be very careful on your intake gasket between the carburetor and the carburetor insulator block, we call them, or manifold to the cylinder. If you notice this configuration here where the pulse hole is and the pulse thing, okay, you got to use the proper gasket from Husqvarna. In the carb kits from Tillotson, I've showed people this before on carburetor videos. The carb kits used to always come with this gasket, okay? But this gasket, when you put it on to an insulator block of a 288, 2100, or anything else in Husky, it doesn't line up properly. The pulse hole isn't right, and it'll suck air, and you won't get the right pulsation to run the fuel pump diaphragm, and you'll end up seizing the saw. Okay? So just be aware of that. In your Tillotson carb kits, this gasket is only good for like a few different models out there. Some old McCulloughs, some old things. The carb kits do not come with this anymore, but they used to. So that's what happens with a lot of people with older saws. They think, oh, hey, man, let's throw a new intake gasket in it. They just think, oh, yeah, that's good, because they should. Why not, right? But it never worked out right. You don't get the right pulsation, and that's probably what scored this piston, okay? So I noticed stuff like this from my experience of years, you know, with stuff, right? So I wanted to show you that stuff on this 2100 little parts thing. Then I want to show you the 2100 that I received from my friend that I'm thinking of fixing up and selling. But I'm having second thoughts. But let me show you this one, okay? And show you some other things on 2100s that happen, right? So here we go. Here's the one I had. So I've taken the muffler off. The engine's good. The crankcase looks really good on this one. I don't see any cracks in this area. And typically on 2100s, a lot of times the gas tank seam would split and leak oil. This one doesn't. The hoses are still good. Another thing I wanted to show was the flywheel starter pulse. right here, the starter pawls. They're a pressed in kind of pin, eh? Let me see if I can get you a little closer. These were like a pressed in pin. So what would happen is, getting old, the pins would get loose and move, and these pawls start coming loose, and these things rub onto the starter pulley. Start to wear the starter pulley here, and then they fall apart, and it obviously creates a mess. They break fins and stuff. So if you have an old 2100 like this one's okay. It's in really good shape here. What you can do is take these pins out of these pawls and take a 394 or 395 pawl bolt, tap these holes to 5mm, and use the bolts that are on the 394 or 395 and have threads there with bolts. There's your fix for your flywheel and your 2100. Also, watch your wires up in here. A lot of times the switch wire can little screw comes out and it gets shredded, so your switch won't work. Another thing I've noticed on this 2100 is the clutch. The clutch here, you can see that, is almost wore right to like the arm here of the clutch. So it's quite wore. So it's going to have a lot of area to expand centrifugally to engage the clutch to work right. So this thing really needs another clutch. And what is nice is you can put a 394 or a 395 clutch on this with the 3 springs instead of the Gardner type springs they call it. Gardner? I don't know. Not a Garter, I guess. Because they're not available anymore. So you look at this gap here. So that spring's going to stretch too much and it's going to break. I know it will. I don't see any cracks in this crankcase, but there's a lot of marks from chain wear. Someone threw their chain a lot on this saw. But there's no cracks. So to me, the motor in the front on the exhaust side looks good. But I will be taking the cylinder off this and making sure that the chrome's good on the cylinder and the piston is in good shape and the con rod looks good. It's got tons of compression. 2100s with the 2 thick rings, guys could hardly pull them over. We put extra gaskets under the cylinder, which seems odd because most times with newer saws, you take gaskets out to give it more compression. But the guys couldn't start these. No compression releases. Their starter handle from stock was terrible. It was too small, so guys never got a really good grip. They're hard to start. I know many mechanics that have blown their shoulders out trying to start these things. Anyways, there's our 2100 stuff. Look at this. A 19... I don't know what it is. 86? No. Older than that. White top Husqvarna 61. My friend Tom Walker sent it to me to put seals in it and tune it up and pipe the muffler, but the motor was no good. Cylinder and piston are shot on it. So I told him that already. He says, well, what should I do with it? I said, I don't know, I'll put it in my junk pile. So I have a few more of these. I might be able to find a top end and resurrect it. That's a hard word to say too. See how it goes. Just a nice one though. I might just have it as a wall hanger. Just a nice old 61. Great saws, man. Great saws. Yeah. Anyways, let's go look at another project. I got all sorts of stuff on the go as usual. Just cleaned my canopy off outside. It's canopy weather now that we got rain. I had it over in the yard over here, and the blackberries were all on it, and it totally stained it. So I went and put a whole bunch of simple green on it today and scrubbed it with my boat washing brush and power washed it, and it turned out okay. Got to get it on there so I can haul stuff around while now we're in the rainy season. It's been such a drought here and hot, and like I said in the previous video, fall came, it was like a switch, boom, back to rainy season. Got myself well, not me, My friend Ben's, what do you call these things? Husqvarnas? Husqvarna? Sure looks like a husky, but so far anything on it isn't like a husky. The only thing I like on these things is this nice metal car bracket here versus this plastic one on the regular Husky 372. A lot of people talk about how they warp and you can suck air in there, but it's funny, like I never really had that much problem with those, and I've done thousands of 372s. I'm not exaggerating either. But this is a nice little setup. I'm going to air and vacuum test this because a lot of these aftermarket 372s, I found 2 already that had the air leaking on the crank side where that little O-ring on a regular 372 goes on the sleeve of the crank. And I'll show you that. But yeah, we'll see. See how this one turns out. I don't like really doing these, but Ben's a good guy, and I thought, why not, man? He is a good fella from England, right? Speaking of England, funny, man. I just did a 357 for a fella, Frank, and he came down from Campbell River, and he bought the 357 in England when he lived there, because I thought, you know, like, where'd you get this saw? Because it had, like, the jungle-type muffler on it and stuff, and I thought, you never bought it here. Because I know, because we've sold 357 since they were out, right? So he goes, oh yeah, I bought it in England when I was there brand new. And, you know, I think he paid like, I don't know, 600 pounds or something, which is almost like $1,000 Canadian or something for it. I think he told me a pound is like $1.50 to $2 per Canadian dollar, I think. But anyways, just did that for him. So Ben here is from England too. I've done a 395 for him that I'm going to run tomorrow. It's all finished. I'm going to do this. And then I got his 2100 that needed one of these insulator blocks, but I already got one from the other day from a friend of mine. Then I got this one too now as a spare. So that's what I got on the go today. Yeah, typical stuff, eh? In life, you just never know, eh? You know, things happen like that little flood we had there and stuff, and you know, you just never know. So it was a good day to do maintenance because even my fan, my sucking fan over here in my porting area, the it wasn't sucking or vacuuming any of my stuff out. And then I thought about it, and because of the rain, the bag outside where it goes into could not breathe because it's wet. Once I took that off, it was working fine. So I've taken that off, dried it out. Then I'm going to put a cover over top of it so the rain doesn't bother it, and it should work better for me. Because all these chips and emery cloth that flies around here, you want it sucked out. You don't want it all over your workshop where you're working. Anyways, Shelly called. Better get up and make her dinner. She had a bit of a rough day today too. She had a flat tire in her car. Today was like everything. We had a flood, flat tire. Oh, goodness. Keep your saw on the wood, stick in the ice, rubbing her out. Check out their walkersawshop.com online store. And have a great Tuesday night. I think it's Tuesday. Or is it Wednesday? No, it's Wednesday, yeah. Have a great midweek day. Okay, bye. Love you all. Bye.